Let me give it to you straight. You don't need another podcast. You don't need more motivation, inspiration, a TED Talk, or some guy yelling at you online. What you need is a direction and the courage to speak it into existence. Because most people are stuck. They're in this waiting room of life, waiting for the right time, waiting to be ready, waiting for permission. And here's what you've probably never been told. You don't need permission. You need a declaration, because nothing changes until you declare something, not just in your head, but out loud, in real time. Declarations don't describe your current reality. They build on the next one with intention. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use declarations to call a new future into existence, even when it scares the shit out of you. There's no affirmations, not wishful thinking. They are not hopes and dreams. I'm talking about a speaking habit that rewrites your life in real time. Declarations aren't just about sounding confident. They're about taking a stand for your own concerns and for what you want. Because nothing changes until you declare what you're no longer willing to tolerate. I'm going to share some stories and some examples, like the day I walked away from a construction business that was making me millions of dollars. I built it from the ground up, over time having led almost 1,500 people across 3 cities. I put up with union threats, extortion attempts, so many things. I'd seen it all. And yet, with one declaration, I shifted everything. I didn't know the how, but I had the what. And that was enough to start. So in this video, I think it's the 6th on the series of Functional Chaos. We're going to unpack what declarations actually are, how they differ from affirmations, why they work when done properly, a different interpretation of what authority is, how to make your declarations stick, and lastly, why most people avoid making them, even when their life depends on it. And here's the bit not many people realize. Every powerful declaration is born from a concern, something that deeply matters to you. It's not a complaint, not a surface want, a real concern that's been hiding under the complaints and the dissatisfactions, a concern that you're no longer willing to neglect. You make a declaration when you finally had enough of floating, when you stop outsourcing your future, when you're ready to generate something instead of waiting to receive it. Now, I'm not talking about manifesting or affirmations. I'm talking about your language and using it to reshape your life and your identity from the ground up. This is one of the most misunderstood tools in the whole Basic Linguistic Act series. And that's what this video is about. It's not inspiration, like I said, it's direction. And so far we've gone from requests to responses to offers to promises. And now we land here, declarations. The most avoided yet most powerful act in the whole sequence. Because declarations aren't reactive, they are creative. They don't just describe the world, they build the world you're about to step into. So like we just said, they're not reactive or descriptive. They are creative and they build. The introduction is done. So now let's get into it. I'm Filimon and I'm here to make ontology simple. And what is ontology? It's the study of how we be, not just what we do. It's about how your language, your moods and emotions and your body shape the life that you live, your perceived reality, and the results that you get from the perspective. So in plain terms, ontology is the blueprint under every single choice, breakdown or interruption in life, every relationship and every comeback. And how with some simple structures and techniques and some frameworks you can change the interpretations so the way you be changes the way you do things. So you can have things be different for you. There's no intellectualizing. That's just not my thing. Just real tools, real stories and examples, and real communication for real life. So if you're looking for something fancy and proper, scroll on. Because I'm all about keeping things simple and effective. I'm a pragmatic person in that way. So even if it unintentionally gets under your skin, like in previous videos, if I say something that spontaneously impresses even myself, I'm going to scribble it on the whiteboard. Declarations. Let's get into it. So before I share what a declaration is, I want to start off by sharing what it isn't. And let's start the whiteboard just on that. So a declaration is not a report, it's not a description, and it's not a hope. And it's definitely not sitting on the couch repeating mantras silently to yourself after reading The Secret. People walk around making declarations without even realizing it. Not bold, public ones, but subtle, corrosive ones, meandering through life with this incredibly persistent monologue going on in their head, a narrative of self-disgust, one of not being good enough, not capable enough, feeling unworthy or unlovable. And it gets openly expressed with things like, I can't do that. I'll never be able to learn this. They won't give me the opportunity. Nobody wants someone like me. Things are never going to change. These are still declarations, quiet ones, persistent ones, and they shape your identity just the same. With those foundational statements, you know what? You're right. You're never going to do that. You're never going to learn what it requires, or you're never going to get the opportunity. Why would you when you've already declared and owned that you won't? Even in frustrations, you've maybe said things like, I'm done with this relationship. Now, I've had enough of this job. Too bad. That's just how I am. Now, that's not just venting, that's shaping reality. And we all do it to an extent. Because when you declare something, you're not just making noise, you're setting the direction of your life. By declaring, you then go about finding, attracting, and validating or creating evidence to make it real. So a weak declaration is like driving around not knowing where you're going. And a clear one, that's your GPS locked in. So if you take away anything from this video, let it be this. If you don't declare your own direction, somebody else will. I like that. I'm going to pop that up. If you don't declare your own direction, somebody or something else will. So whether you're a business owner, an employee, a parent, or just sick of where you are at, declarations are how you start shifting the tide. So now that that's out of the way, what is a declaration? Let's pop them up. A declaration is direction. It's possibility. It's a shift. It's a statement that brings something new into existence. It's a bold act of creating a new possibility, not with hope, but with your words. I'm going to grow this business. I'm joining the gym to get fit. I'm no longer tolerating this. I'm committed to building something better. I will apply for that job. I will learn what I need to learn and get myself in a better position. This ends right now. So you're not waiting for it to be true. You're opening up the space to make it happen. And that shift alone, it changes everything. Before we go any further, this video is not a standalone. It is number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number 6 in the series that I'm currently creating on basic linguistic acts, the speaking habits of our life. Each video builds on the last. And that's why there's only 5 up there, because so far in the series we have the introduction, which is the first one. Then we have requests, how we ask for something. Responses to requests is how you handle a request and respond like a grown-up. Offers, how initiating action opens up opportunities and possibilities. And the last one we did was promises. what locks in commitment, and how everything I just mentioned leads to them. But it's very difficult for any of those to work if you are unclear about what you stand for, or where you're headed, or even where you want to head. And this is why declarations sit at the top. They don't require agreement because you're not requesting or you're not offering. You're declaring. They don't ask for approval. They just need you to mean them. To understand these terms better and to learn a whole bunch of simple structures really, please go back and watch the previous videos, and I'll make sure that I put the links in the description. What I like about declarations is they create worlds. Alan Seiler from the Ontological Coaching Institute said, declarations are how we create new realities. They mark a before and after. They are not descriptive, they're generative. They are not descriptive. They are generative. Here's a real example that a client declared to me the other day. From now on, I run a business, not just a job site. So the thing is, he's a project manager, and by making that declaration, he realized how it immediately changes how he wakes up every morning, how he schedules his time, how he handles those people around him, how he makes decisions, turns up to meetings, completes his day. So by declaring from now on I run a business, not just a job site, he now gives shape to his future. And all that he has to do is shape his behavior around that. And like steel in a slab of concrete, it gives strength into what comes next. This example can be used in any context. So if you're an employee, a manager, a contractor, if you're in retail, IT, hospitality, or even construction, by declaring yourself something bigger than where you are at, you open up a different path that opens up new opportunities that were previously unavailable to you. Basically, powerful declarations make you better. And I'm going to share how by making one changed the whole trajectory of my life. Back in 2015, when I started to scale my concrete reinforcement business in the construction industry, because I had already started creating a great team culture, skilled people were leaving larger companies to join our team or to wait to join the team. Now this created some tensions with the other bigger companies because we were doing things differently and people wanted to work with us. So because of our plans to scale, I approached the union and we agreed to certain terms. However, within a month, the union broke all of those agreements around requests and offers that we both made and committed to. And basically what happened was they became very hostile and applied outright illegal coercive tactics. They changed the rules of the game and didn't like it because I stood my ground and was not willing to give up a large percentage of what I spent a decade creating from nothing. Nothing was given, it was all created. From a young age, I learned what my core values are and I lived them as my own terms and conditions. There was no alignment in this process. If anything, I felt that they were being violated. So this saga went on for almost 2 years. It cost me tens of thousands of dollars directly in the first couple of months, really, and then over the time, millions in potential revenue. I learned that reason, collaboration, and simple logic wasn't going to work and concluded that hyenas only think about what they can steal and eat today. And I was dealing with hyenas. Long story short, in 2016, I got told by a mentor that what I was creating in my business in regards to my goals and my vision and the expansion we wanted was awesome. Go me. I was right to do it, but I was doing it in the wrong industry. So back then I declared that I'd had enough and would take steps to exit the industry, create a life on my terms with a focus on building teams and people. I thought, I've done it, so let's do it bigger. So at the time it sounded like a crazy idea and people lined up to tell me so. And they said things like, you've been doing this your whole entire adult life and you're just going to leave. Or what about the connections and the networks you've made? Or it's too risky to start over again at your age. You're going to walk away from something that's managed and making you so much money? What are you, an idiot? So I had to listen to all of these things and more. But the first step was to start a new company to distance myself from the one the union wanted to make an example of. I called the new one FTU Constructions. Now, I'm going to let you get creative and figure out what the acronym stood for. But I want to give you a hint. The U stood for union, the T stood for the. I put my manager as the face of the business, and I spent very little time on site, instead working full-time on the business and educating myself on a whole bunch of different things that were going to help me when I exited. I once again scaled, even bigger than previously, and the biggest thing was how much more money we made, because instead of investing heavily on scaling for the long term and expanding, focus strategically went on putting my eggs in the baskets that were going to bring the biggest margins. The experience had me shift from long-term relationships and investments in the industry to what projects would be the best fit for the team and the most profitable for the company. And most of all, out of the union's reach. It was a 10-year plan. However, because the declaration was so strong and tied to a vivid vision on the back of a driving dissatisfaction, even though I had no idea how it was going to happen, I kept making declarations along the way, learning how to make them better. And this gave me what I needed to keep on track, while the company basically ran itself in the day-to-day workings of it. I was learning, volunteering, often traveling, running workshops and doing lots of mentoring. Declarations coupled with action gave birth to new possibilities that created different possibilities. From that space, new declarations were constantly formed. I will, I can, I am. I was just making life up, one declaration at a time. All of them tied into my big audacious one. I'd had enough, and I'm going to take steps to exit the industry, create a life on my terms with a focus on building people and teams. Seeing this start to take shape, I knew what I needed to make an even bigger declaration, because it was coming to reality. So I needed to make one that was going to take me to my twilight years and beyond. So I put one out there that felt so scary yet so aligned. I'm going to travel the world with a focus on education, educating myself and teaching others on how they can teach themselves. The world will be my classroom for all of this learning and teaching. I was going to build people instead of build buildings. Once again, unbelievable statement to be making. Who am I to do that? However, I shared it with some people anyway. And things were so on track that after spending more and more time in this space, building people instead of buildings, I exited the construction industry in 2021, knowing that I'd had enough, I've done enough, and I was enough. A 10-year goal happened in half of that time. And after taking a few years off, I went and studied all that I could on people and behaviour, and continue to do so. I chose ontology as my vehicle, and getting my certification as an ontological leadership coach, along with many other little things along the way, and making some massive identity changes as well. The first declaration I made all of those years ago is complete. However, it enabled the second one. The next big one is going to happen when I'm complete. The thing is, I didn't come from a textbook or a fancy private school education, a sheltered upbringing. I came from experiences, grit and resiliences that came from declarations. And they came from my own personal authority. So who gets to declare? Now here's where many people get stuck, because they don't give themselves the authority to declare something. They say things like, who am I to say that? What if I don't have it all right? What if people don't take me seriously? You know, how's that been going for you up until now? Because here's the thing. Authority matters. And I have it that too many people have a negative relationship with the word authority. But it doesn't always come from position. It comes from the role that you stand in. Think about this for a moment. A judge in court, a police officer handing out a fine, a coach picking the starting team for sports, a board voting on a CEO, a boss giving out tasks, a parent laying down a boundary to a child, a teacher suspending a child, a person finally saying, "I'm done." The declaration is powerful because we accept the role behind it. So when you own your role, you own your authority. Your declarations start carrying some weight. So I'm someone that always had a challenging relationship to authority. So naturally, the word would bring up a loaded charge in me. It wasn't until Alan Seiler from the institute I learnt at showed me that the word author was nestled within it. He said, when you are declaring, you are your own authority, the author of what you are wanting to create. So now I love authority in my own authored way. Let's put that up. So it's pretty cool how the word author just sits there amongst authority. Own your role, own your word, own your world. Now, another thing that I want to add to this is declarations can't be forced upon you because you don't really want it deep down. You're not going to do it. Yeah, sometimes people need some encouragement. They need to kick up the arse, especially when they continuously complain about their circumstances and not want to do anything about it. Now, I often come across these situations with clients, and just recently I had a client tell me that I don't want to declare something that I won't do because I need to know that it's going to happen. So he avoided making any declarations for three main reasons. Number one, the fear of getting it wrong. Number two, the fear of being seen. And number three, the need for certainty. And it took some intentional listening from my part, and I became aware of two assessments, two judgments that I had running in the background. The first was in his listening that I could be forcing things. And the second is that he had this need for control that was at play, not only with his current concern, but across many areas of his life. So catching myself, I pulled back and I asked him if it was okay if we explored his relationship with control. He quickly realized that he unknowingly lived his life needing to control every outcome. And he then communicated the negative impact that this was creating everywhere. And from this place, he was then able to make a declaration around that. So what's the takeaway here? If you're resistant, think about a declaration around the resistance before you make the declaration on this desired outcome that you're trying to achieve. Because ultimately the declaration needs to come from you, from your own authority, and not forced upon you. Because if it's forced, that's just manipulation. I don't like it, you don't like it, and it's very highly unlikely that you're going to follow through. So if you are resisting, start small. Just taking ownership that something needs to change, that could be the declaration that creates the spark. While on this, another example comes to mind. I remember many years ago I was part of an educational leadership group for years, and we were often, I felt and judged, forcibly suggested to declare things without really being enrolled. And for me, it felt like the tools of guilt and shame were being used, and this went against my values. Almost like I was being ontologically molested. So I became resentful towards the process and didn't like it at all. Every strong declaration has three ingredients. Authority. Are you the right person to be making this call? If not, it's just noise. 2, public accountability. Are you willing to own this out loud? Declarations, they grow teeth when other people hear them. And number 3, backing. What support structure or practice makes it real? Because without this, it kind of stays a fantasy. You can't declare your marriage is changing and then do nothing. You can't declare a new leadership style and then lead like the old you, react in the same way. You have to act like the declaration is already in motion, because it is. And the last thing on this, ask yourself, Are you walking around with a persistent tyrant directing your life from in your head, or are you creating from your own authority, authoring what you want? Now I want to talk about being specific with your declaration, because if you are not specific, you risk being misunderstood. So I'm going to give you a funny story, but it was brutal. Great example. Back in 2019, I was flat out with my construction business, as I said in the previous story. Busiest we had ever been. At the same time, I was running workshops, volunteering, coaching, everything was happening, travel, everything was going on. And I'd been running this 12-module under construction program in person with people. For 5 years, it was loosely created on paper, yet firmly detailed in my head. Anyway, I wanted to turn it into an online thing, so I loosely and vaguely declared that I want a break. If I had a 6-week break, I can put things together. My thoughts were to go away, get an Airbnb and really get stuck into it and make the program an online thing. But my language was not aligned with my intention. I wasn't clear, and I just threw this vague declaration out there. And after repeating this over and over again and again, guess what happened? I was playing soccer and snap, I broke my ankle. Screws, plates, the lot. And guess how long I was off my feet, being put all together for? 6 weeks. So instead of building the program, I was the one being rebuilt. 6 weeks before I could walk again, and then much time after that in rehab. To top it off, I spent 4 of those 6 weeks traveling on planes, going to events and seminars, all the stuff that kept me out of flow. I want a break. If I had a 6-week break, I can put things together. I got what I asked for. So just like when you make a request, be clear, be specific, or the universe might take it literally. I now want to talk about the difference between an affirmation and a declaration. Because let's get clear on one thing. And I have to put this in here because it frustrates me when people think there is no difference between them. Like I said at the top, they read a book or like The Secret, and then they think that they can sit on the lounge like a parrot in a cage, repeating what they want and believe it's going to just magically happen without them taking action. Even with the story I just shared where I declared I want a break. If I had a 6-week break, I can put things together. I took action to make it happen by going out and playing soccer. So what's the difference? For me, affirmations are hopeful reminders. Declarations, they're public commitments backed by responsibility. An affirmation is an internal reminder. A declaration is a public commitment. An affirmation is repeated over and over so you can believe it. A declaration is spoken to become. An affirmation sounds like, I am confident. A declaration sounds like, I am taking X steps to build my confidence. An affirmation is usually a positive statement that you repeat to yourself to create or reinforce a belief or a desired outcome. It's kind of like a motivational boost. An ontological declaration, on the other hand, is more about creating a new reality or a new way of being through language. It's about declaring something into existence and then living into that declaration. It's a firmer, more powerful version of an affirmation. More grit, less cute. So it's more transformational in nature. What are some examples? Affirmation, I am confident and strong. Declaration, I'm becoming a strong, resilient person and I'm taking the steps every day to build that. You see, one's internal, the other calls something into the world. And declarations are public. They carry risk, and that's what makes them powerful. They shift how others see you and how you see yourself. Declarations, they really do have that element of action and commitment behind them, because they're not just about stating something to shift your frame of mind. What they're doing is, they're also about stepping into a new reality and then embodying it. So in a sense, Declarations are more holistic and action-driven over affirmations, in my view. They don't just speak to the mind, they command the body. So why do most people avoid declarations? Because they expose you, and who honestly likes being exposed? So let me draw up something that may help. I was just thinking about this the other day, and I think it's pretty useful. So I was just thinking about this the other day. Hopefully you can read it. A bit of a quick Venn diagram. In one circle you got exposure, in the next one you got judgment, and in the next one you got uncertainty. Right in the middle here is avoidance. And it's why I think people avoid making the declarations. Because you can't control what will happen. You might not follow through. You're going to be seen, exposed. You're going to be judged and criticized. You have to change. All of that common monkey mind internal chatter. So people avoid them. And it's common sense to do so, yeah? Like that's pretty confronting stuff. So instead people settle for a common life, common problems, common ambitions, and then surround themselves with people who have things in common. It's safer that way. Easier to complain and gossip than to create and challenge and change. They use vague language. They hide in "I'll try," "maybe later," "we'll see." But let's be honest, if you're not declaring anything, you're not really in the game. And deep down, you know it. You're just drifting, hoping something's going to land. And because it's safer to float in the effect of, "we'll see what happens," or declare from a weak self-authority, a place from insecurity, undeserving, incapability, than to draw a line and step into it and be at cause. Let's now talk about public declarations and support systems. Private declarations, they're very helpful for us. However, public declarations are where the real shift happens. When you decide to declare something out loud in front of others, you put your credibility on the line. People start listening to you differently and you start behaving differently. This is what personal authority looks and sounds like. It's also where a support system comes in. Because if you're going to declare something bold, have people in your corner. People who remind you of what it is. They challenge you and they hold you to it. Communicate it to people who are going to hold you accountable more than you would of yourself when you find yourself in a rut, and you will find yourself in a rut. Public accountability. Sometimes the first declaration you need to make is, I'm creating a support system to help me follow through. Without that, your declarations can become empty words. Also remember, people close to us, they want us to succeed. If they knew what you openly wanted to do and create, they would want to support you. If not, if they don't back you, they weren't really close, were they? They were comfortable. They were supporting your complaints and your mediocrities. And because you wanted to change them, to challenge them, it challenged them too much. It highlighted their own unwillingness to become better. So in that case, and this is just my personal opinion, if I'm being sabotaged and not supported, it is often better to declare those relationships over. So what does a declaration actually sound like in the real world? It doesn't have to be dramatic or poetic, but it does have to be clear, like I shared in my many stories. I'm going to start my own business by the end of the year. I will no longer tolerate being disrespected at work. I'm ready to start healing and I'm going to get the help that I need. From this moment on, I'm a father who shows up. This relationship is over. So notice how none of these aren't suggestions. They're not requests. They're a line in the sand. Sometimes a declaration is massive and it's public. Other times it's quiet, but powerful. Like walking into the gym for the first time in years and whispering to yourself, I'm not quitting this time. Or standing on a job site like I did many years ago, looking around and realizing, I don't belong here anymore. A declaration isn't always a shout. Sometimes it's a whisper that echoes for years. You don't need permission to declare. You just need to own your own voice, your own authority. Don't make declarations lightly. These aren't affirmations. This isn't rah-rah. This is you claiming authority over the direction of your life. A lazy declaration is just noise, but a real one, that's how movements begin. And they come with responsibility. You can't just throw these statements around and hope people believe you, hope they engage and they're enrolled with you. If you're going to declare, speak from the right place, either earned or owned. Have the means or commit to getting them. Follow through with consistent behavior. Speak from an earned or an owned place. Commit to the means. Behave accordingly. Don't throw words, deliver them. You want to be listened to as someone who declares powerfully and then act accordingly. Let's wrap this up. It went for so much longer than I thought it would. Everything we've done so far has led to this point. Requests, responses, offers, promises, and all of them are powerful tools. But declarations, that's where you stop reacting and you start creating. We wrote this up here. You create and you build. You declare that you will make that request or offer. You declare that you're going to keep that promise. You respond clearly and powerfully, especially with a no. No is something that really helps nurture personal authority because it speaks of boundaries. Think of it this way. Let me just draw something. I want to draw a table for a moment. So let's look at this table, right? Let's think of this table as an Excel spreadsheet. We've got our year, we've got our complaints, we've got the cost of those complaints, and here is the way of being, how we present after all of these things. So if you look at your life as one big Excel spreadsheet, and at the bottom, you have a list of tabs. Or on the side, you have these list of tabs. Like I said, 2021, 22, 3, 4, 5, and in each one of those years, you have all of the same complaints, all of them listed here. The same limited visions, frustrations, ambitions, things you want and things that piss you off. They exist week after week, month after month, making up all of the years after year. Are you going to copy and paste these things into a new year? Will 2025, 35, 40 look the same? Will you copy and paste the same things yet conveniently hide away because it may be too hard? I don't know what will happen. What if it doesn't work out? Well, if you do, you will always get what you've always had, or you're going to be given what is left after others have taken. So my last invitation is declare, change, trust and back yourself, not knowing how it's going to happen, but believing that you're going to be at cause, knowing it. So here's the challenge for this week. Stop waiting for life to shift. Pick one area of your life where things feel stagnant and make a declaration. Say it out loud. Put it in writing. Tell someone who is going to hold you to it. Then act like it's already happening, because it is. Declare the direction and then walk into it, because the life you want won't arrive through hoping. It answers to conviction, not convenience. It comes when you say, this is who I am, this is what I'm building, and it all starts now. This is Functional Chaos, and I am Filimon. I'm here to rebuild ontology for people who actually want results, pragmatically, not just insights. I don't care how polished the language sounds. If it doesn't land in your real life, it's useless. If you can't apply it today, there's no point. So if you're ready to build from here, make sure you've watched the whole of the Basic Linguistic Act series, the Speaking Habits of Life. If you got value from this video, flick me a thumbs up, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you want to learn more, comment or get in touch. Happy to answer any questions. In the next video, we're going to explore assessments, the opinions and judgments we have about ourselves and others, and situations that often stops us making the declarations that we actually want to make. So this video ties in nicely. Most of the time they're bullshit, and I'm going to show you an easy way to see that so you can catch yourself in real time. It's such an important topic, and I'm still wondering how I can keep it short. Until then, go out, stake the flag in the ground and declare. Because sometimes personal leadership isn't about asking, it's about what you're willing to put forward. And remember, the declaration isn't complete when you say it, it begins when you live it. And that's what separates the noise from the distraction. As usual, take what you will,